Hey guys, this is Bunny Muffins. I'm a 2-time challenger player and I make a meta snapshot listing out all the best compositions and best items every Friday for every patch. So let's just get right into the details. Patch 10.9 introduced a different champion drop rate for teamfight tactics, which strongly affects the metagame. Many compositions that relied on slow rolling before got weaker, and many of the 8 and 9 champion team compositions all got slightly stronger. So with that in mind, let's look at the summary of the tier list. We start off with Dark Stars being the best composition still, though this week it's only slightly better than all the A tier comps. The rest of the comps that are good right now are Cybernetics, Blaster Brawler, Kale and Friends, Rebels, Vanguard Sniper, and Mek Infiltrator. For B tier, we also have Space Pirate Celestial and the Star Guardian composition called E-Girls. Lastly, we have a new composition added, which is the Hyperroll Vanguard Sorcerer. This is the first Hyperroll composition of set 3, so it's definitely something to look out for, though the results haven't been that convincing yet. So let's get into the details here. First, we have the Dark Star Sniper. This is the build. You generally want to go to level 8, get Xerath, and stabilize with Jhin at level 7, and ideally you want Rageblade and Quicksilver Sash for Xerath, and then maybe a hat as a third item. You could also itemize Shaco if you run out of space on Jhin and have a lot more attack damage items. Jarvan's better than Mordekaiser because he puts down an attack speed buff for your whole team, so you want your Jhin and your Xerath within 3 spaces of Jarvan. So here, keep in mind positioning always changes from round to round, but just always make sure that Jarvan is within range of Jhin and Xerath. Next up, we have Cybernetics. Cybernetics are the first comp in A tier. They've always been very consistent. You want a bunch of Infinity Edges on Aurelia. You want a bunch of random items on your Cybernetics. My favorite are Zephyr, Redemption, and Zezirot, but you could put them on any champion. You don't even have to complete them. You could just leave half item components on them as well. Your late game is mainly Thresh, Misfortune, and Echo. And this composition is pretty hard to play, and you do need a lot of requirements in order to play the composition, but if you know what you're doing, this is a great composition to climb with. Next up, we have Blaster Brawler. There are a lot of different Jinx builds right now. I think Blaster Brawler is slightly better than the Rebel build, but not by too much. You really just want to play whatever you're dealt, and whatever's good against the lobby, and whatever items you have. If you get a lot of Giant Slayers, you definitely want to go the Blaster Brawler route. If you're going the Rebel route, you'll want Infinity Edges and Last Whisper. My favorite items on Jinx right now are Guardian Angel and Double Giant Slayer, and then you have a red buff on one of your other blasters. Apart from that, you just want to put your leftover items either on Misfortune or Cho'Gath. Next up, we have Kale and Friends. Kale and Friends has been up and down a bit. There are many different builds for this as well. You have a 4 Chrono build, you have the 6 Blade Master build, and you have other stuff that includes everything in between, including like 3 Cybernetics, 2 Chrono, 2 Brawler, or there are a lot of different variations where you could play Kale, so you just have to watch out for whatever board you have and whatever champions you're dealt. Moving on, we have Rebels. Rebels made like a huge comeback in the past 2 patches, including the B patch from last week. You definitely want to stabilize with Jinx at around level 8. So you want level 2 Jinx around that point. Hopefully you have Aurelion Soul level 1. But you really want to prioritize Jinx items early because it allows you to win streak, which allows you to hit your late game and win the game. So there are a lot of heavy hitting late game bombs. So as long as you make it to late game, you're going to be winning the game. That's why you want to prioritize red buff, Infinity Edge early game in order to win streak on some of your early game transition units. Moving on to the next composition, we have Vanguard Sniper. This is pretty similar to the Dark Star Sniper build, except this one runs 4 Vanguard. Vanguard's got a buff at 2 Vanguard, so it is something interesting and easier to transition into. After that, you want to add in Snipers and Celestials, and mainly just have Jhin carry. My favorite items for him are actually a lot of Infinity Edges, but you don't always get a ton of those, so I could list out a couple of options you could go here. Next up, we have the Mek Infiltrator build. This build is super strong if you're uncontested, but it got nerfed like 4 patches in a row, so you definitely have to know what you're doing before playing this composition because it's a lot less forgiving than before. I like to prioritize my Rumble with Bramble Vest. I know I don't have it here, I need to update this photo, but Bramble Vest is the most important item, followed by Quicksilver, and then you want a Titan's Resolve. And the reason behind this is that Jhin is a lot more popular and Jinx as well than they were before, and that's why you really want to prioritize that Bramble Vest. The next most important item is a Demolitionist Spatula on Kaisa, but I won't go too much more into detail on Mek Infiltrator because I am releasing a guide on this sometime this weekend, so do look out for that. Next up, we have the B tier, starting with Space Pirate Celestials. you really want a lot of ability power on Darius. You could either go Jeweled Gauntlet, Infinity Edge, or double Rabadon's Death Cap. Then you want a defensive item such as Guardian Angel, Trap Claw, Quicksilver Sash, any of those work, and then you itemize the rest of your team. Ionic on Jace being very strong because he still empowers Darius as the fights go on. Next up in B tier, we have the Star Guardian Sorcerer composition. This one got a lot of nerfs recently, and there are a bunch of different new builds that you could check out. You could also check out my guide in the description below. I'll leave a link there. But there is a new version with Sona with double Chalice or triple Chalice, which is also pretty viable as well. I really don't think you want to be playing this composition, however, since it gets outshined by pretty much everything else, and you need a lot of tiers for it to even be mildly successful. We're going to go ahead and skip C tier since all these compositions, you don't really want to play them, but you could check them out if you want on my website at bunnymuffins.lol/meta. And lastly, we have some of the meme tier builds. These are like the uncategorized compositions right now, or the for fun builds if they're like highly overrated in my opinion. But this one I'd say is uncategorized. It doesn't seem that strong, the Hyperroll Vanguard Sorcerer build. You want to get 3 stars of Poppy, Twisted Fate, Zoe, and Leona. And essentially you want Dragonclaw and Bramblevest on Poppy. She becomes unkillable at that point. For a third item, you could add in something like Rabadon's Death Cap, or Spear Shojin, Ionic Spark. Any of those would work fine. Next, you'll want to itemize your Twisted Fate with Spear Shojins, maybe like a Rage Blade, Rabadon's Death Cap, Morellonomicon, and use that to carry early game. It's hard to play this comp because it gets very frustrating, because if you don't hit your 3 stars early, you're going to have a really rough game. And even if you do hit them, it doesn't guarantee a win by any means at all. So that's why I think this comp most likely would be very low in B tier, but we'll see if people discover new ways to play it or better ways to transition into this composition. Next up, we have Void Brawler. This composition has fallen off a lot, and the nerf to Quicksilver Sash didn't help it at all. So this composition, if I were to rank it, it might be very high on C tier or the worst comp in B tier. That's it for the compositions. Let's get into the items. So first you want to look at the item carousel priority on at the start of the game. So we definitely want Chain Vest and BF Sword, and then you definitely want to avoid tiers. Everything else in the middle is kind of around the same power level. I tend to like Glove and Rod the most, but it's up to whatever compositions you're most used to and whatever you like to play the most. Next up, we have the Lilac Carousel. Kale and Aurelia, they're always going to be the best starting units, just because the fights last very long, so Kale's very strong. And then since Cybernetics are so good early, Aurelia is going to be a no-brainer to pick there. After that, it's either Jhin or Jinx, and then the rest don't really matter, unless you go for Fizz if you're forcing Mek Infiltrator. Lastly, we have the item quadrant. The only thing I really changed was Bramblevest is by far the best item right now. A lot of Jinxes, a lot of Jhins, they all do attack damage, so you really want a Bramblevest on pretty much most of your teams. Apart from that, Trap Claw is still the best defensive item, and Guardian Angel, QSS, those are the go-tos for pretty much any of your carries. Infinity Edge is super strong on Jhin and Jinx now, and Morellonomicon's always been very strong. Generally, you want to build items on the top right corner and avoid the items on the bottom left. But yeah, that's it for today. If you want to check out how I created this tier list, go ahead and check out the methodology section on my website at bunnymuffins.lol/meta. I'll be streaming this weekend every day from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. US Eastern Time, so you definitely want to check that out as well if you want to see how to play these compositions and watch some live gameplay there. Before we head off, if you are new to the channel and you want to also get better at teamfight tactics, you definitely want to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell to get notified on whenever I release a new video. As usual, if you enjoyed this meta snapshot, hit the like button down below, leave me a comment, let me know which compositions you're most excited to play as well. I'll also be starting a new YouTube channel where I'll be sharing a lot of stuff outside of teamfight tactics. If that's something of interest to you, head on over there. I'll leave a link all down in the description below. I'm also looking for writers and editors for my website, bunnymuffins.lol, so if that is something of interest to you and you have experience in one of those two roles, head on over to my Discord, link in the description, and go ahead and send me a DM there. But yeah, that's it for now. I'll see you guys sometime this weekend for my Mek Infiltrator guide. But apart from that, I'll see you guys next time. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.